Fall Guys is a game you've no doubt heard of. Back in 2020 it was big, for about a week. After that it was seen as that game which died off super fast for a multitude of reasons. The game was fun, but a lack of map variety paired with the fever around the game meant that a lot of people either bought themselves out of it, or pushed away by the server and hacker issues. I stand by the fact that the game was always fun even after its fall. I know, I made the joke, I'm so funny, ha 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 ha, you can clap now. The game was seeing a gradual uptick in player numbers through into Season 6, and I covered that in another video I made about a year ago, but then, nothing. Past seasons went a little too long for comfort, but that was always quantified by a huge number of additions eventually. With Season 7 though, nothing came. If you hadn't been listening to all of the leaks, you'd surely be confused as to why things were taking this long, totaling in at over half a year when all things were said and done. Mediatonic were cooking up something, and it was a very risky play as I'll get into later. And what was that? Fall Guys became free to play and received simultaneous ports to Xbox and Switch, coinciding with the release of a new season. I've been saying for a while the game was due for a proper revival, and this is it. I left this video a while to see if the game had staying power this time around, and it's taken a good while to get this script finalised, and I'm still seeing the game in the top 10 on Twitch, and breaking previous Steam charts records. I think it's doing okay for the time being. Let's get into it, shall we? I do apologise, this isn't the review I'm meant to be working on, but here's why I think Mediatonic just made a really smart move, why the almost 2-year wait for said move was a good thing, and how they've managed to turn the game into a ticking time bomb, yet again, that could very well fall out of relevancy within a few months. But first we need to figure out just how we got here. Here's a timeline covering from the moment the game launched until now. Each major season launch is marked accordingly. Now, after running the numbers, I found that the Fall Guys most of the internet knew was about 2% of its lifespan. If you want to visualise, the part of the game you are most likely to be familiar with is in green. But what about everything in the red, I hear you ask? Well, I won't recap everything, but there's currently 65 rounds in the game, with an additional bonus round known as Sweet Thieves, which features different gameplay. The game launched with 25. It doesn't take a genius to realise the round pool has more than doubled. Not only that, multiple rounds have variations, things that change up the obstacles here and there. While not worth counting as whole new rounds, there certainly are some variations, like the jump bar on Perfect to Match or cracked the shit version of Block Party, that certainly feel fresh enough to almost be counted as one. So the round pool increased, big deal, game company updating their game to get le cash, we'll love it. Well, that isn't the only change they made. Crown ranks were added, rewarding high-skill players with exclusive cosmetics, incentivising some form of long-term goal to work for besides bragging rights. Squads and duos were also added into the round pool, allowing you to play with your friends as a team and not directly against them. Winning in these modes is rightfully easier though, so it rewards crown shards instead of a full crown, of which you need 60 for a single crown. Challenges were also introduced, allowing for crown shards or fame points to be earned here and there. This was later overhauled to grow from just 3 daily quests to include weekly and season-long challenges as well, of which give suitably increased rewards, now including kudos. If you ever tire of the main show, LTM shows were added that had a unique round pool to add a little spice here and there. There were even the occasional live event introduced, of which had you complete challenges to unlock crossover and limited time cosmetics. Custom lobbies were made available for communities to host their own custom events. Prominent community members who showed overwhelming support were actually added into the game as skins, to rightfully overwhelming praise, and most critically, crossplay and progression functionality was added as well. That, combined with Switch and Xbox ports, within a 34-month time period, starting with a team that was scaled with the expectation this game wasn't going to have more than 1,000 players online at any given time, is impressive. I'll get into this later because I love throwing shade, but I'm sorry that if at launch the content pipeline simply wasn't enough to entertain your attention, internet. Luckily the people at Mediatonic didn't share the same sentiment of dropping the game like a rock, and just like Hello Games with No Man's Sky, they took that initial boost in money, and even after the hype died down, kept growing their team and stuck with things to make a game that is damn well good nowadays if I say so myself. There are a lot of things you could throw at Mediatonic to say that they aren't all that good of a developer. The launch wasn't that great, there are bugs that took way too long to be fixed, and there are definitely some odd things they've done behind the scenes. However, one thing I have to commend them on is that they saw the success of the game and they chose to keep working on it, despite the fact they could have very easily taken the money and ran. Developing all the content from seasons 1 to 6 cost money, and I can guarantee that significantly less copies were being sold in that time than they probably would have liked. Worse yet, any increase in player numbers throughout that period was probably old players coming back to see what they'd missed, but not really sticking around. Bar DLC purchases and the odd person picking up the game here and there post-hype, they were not earning, realistically, all that much. Enough to stay afloat, sure, otherwise we wouldn't have had 6 seasons worth of content, but I'd be lying if I think it was a smart business move to stick at it unless they were confident in the game's own success and were passionate about it. Despite everything else I'm going to dunk on them for in the latter half of this video, I have to at least commend them for that. Now, releasing the game on other consoles on its own would have generated a buzz, making the game free probably to a similar extent. However, if you bundle the two together, you've got a recipe for some good business. It doesn't matter what console you have, if you want to hop on Fall Guys with the homies, you can. And realistically, that's great. If it simply went free on all platforms it was already out on, Xbox and Switch players would still feel excluded. If it was ported but still cost money, there'd still be those people that refuse to buy simply because it costs cash. But if you do both, you get the highest potential player base and momentum from doing so. Because now all it takes is one person convincing another to get the game, now it's free, and after that the word of mouth advertisement kicks in. If you've got a good game available for free that's crossplay, it's a formula that'll work. That's where it gets interesting. Mediatonic only lit that fuse way after the game's peak in popularity, because while this new move is going to bring in a bunch of prospective new players, recapturing the old audience is equally as important from a business standpoint now the game is free. Fall Guys, at its release, burned quickly, and once that was done, people were done with the game for the foreseeable future. And that was entirely out of their control. There was nothing Mediatonic could have done to stop people leaving when they did, and I think it's important to take a few things from around the time of the game's launch into consideration here. I think it says something when the game's lead designer expected the game to make its money back in 6 months to a year, only for that to be done in 4 hours after the game's launch. You panel that in with the reports that they had 30 people at most working on the game in the lead up to release, which in game development really isn't that many for a game of this size and complexity. Fall Guys was never going to survive past the first month. There was simply no way they could create enough content in order to sustain anyone's interest. With the budget they had, the expectations they had, and the team size they had at Mediatonic, which they have since grown, there was no way they could have created enough content to sustain the internet during the time. The game was whipped into a frenzy and people were experiencing the content, presumably at a faster rate than anyone anticipated them to. Think New Horizons if you want a similar case for the burnouts. Things just weren't going to work. You can try and throw cheaters and network issues to be the main reason that Fall Guys died, and you can slander the game all you want, but realistically the thing that killed Fall Guys and the thing that led to its lack of content was the expectation and uncertainty if the game would even succeed at all. However, the release of Free For All being so far out from launch, and having 6 seasons of additional content added, you get an influx of new players going from free and releasing on more platforms. That generates a buzz and drags in smaller players. While the new players have a prospective fuck ton of content to enjoy, players who enjoyed the game at launch still have content to sink into and have the benefit of being less burnt out on the older maps now too. All that content increases player retention, and by increasing variety you decrease the speed at which any burnout occurs. That buys time for the next season to roll around, keeping the game in the spotlight for longer, which earns you more money. Not only that, but the dev team is bigger this time around, so the next season will probably roll around in a much more reasonable time frame, topping up the hype once again and managing to keep the ball rolling. I don't think they're gonna be porting the game to any more platforms for the time being, so here's to hoping they direct all their focus into keeping the game good. Given the game still looks to be going strong past the initial release window, I'd say that first step worked, and I'm confident to go on record and say that Fall Guys is going to remain in the mainstream for a good while yet. That sounds like a great plan, right? Change the monetization model to be something more long-term than it was before, give legacy players gifts for their support, and rack up a combo of good publicity to turn the game into something alive in the long term. And now you're on the content treadmill. You need to hit every single quick-time event you can, because if you let up for even a second, you'll be back out of the public consciousness. Luckily, it seems as though the marketing and crossover departments have enough material to sustain interest for a while. All the gameplay side of operations need to do is just irreparably not fuck the game over, or at the very least remedy anything harmful as soon as possible if they want this game to be the smash hit it deserves to be. Because that always bugged me, just how quick YouTube and Twitch dropped the game after launch. The game stumbles some and everyone in the spotlight packs it up to leave, no second chances here. Bar the odd cynical retrospective or livestream, did you really hear anything about this game in the past 2 years? If anything, it felt plastic to go back and watch those old videos on Fall Guys, because it felt like there was some fake affection there. I don't want to exactly go pointing fingers, but it felt very trend-chasey, and the moment the trend could be substituted for something fresher by the vultures, Fall Guys was no more than an afterthought. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody already knows YouTube is full of vultures. I mean, why do you think I'm making this video just after Free-for-All dropped, and why do you think every YouTuber has a reaction channel? I don't want to see something like that happen again, because this game deserves more than to be just some passing fad from years past. But to do that, the game needs to be as for-free as possible. With that said, I think it's about time to mention why most Legacy players are a little pressed about the new season. The last season to release was Season 6 at the start of December 2021. That means there was a wait of about 7 months with no reasonable amount of content to sustain interest during that time. It was an albeit average season stretched over the time frame of 2 nearing 3. There was some stuff added past the launch though. Sweet Thieves, the mode I mentioned before, was added. While I can't find the exact place they said this, I do recall them saying this was laying the groundwork for them to add other types of alternate modes into the game as well. And also, towards the latter half of the season there were 3 Satellite Stars events, of which allowed you to obtain exclusive outfits before they went free to play. Bar the odd shop crossover and the maybe one live event I'm forgetting to recall, that was Season 6. And while you can say that yes, Sweet Thieves buys them a few months tops, it really wasn't enough to substantiate the time that people were stuck playing the same old game, because the wait did damage. It burnt out Legacy players, because while I can say that, yes, the old players that haven't touched the game since Season 1 have a bunch of new content to enjoy, the people that were playing the game on the same season for 7 months started to get burnt out. And while, yes, they potentially did come back for the start of the season, I don't think they're going to be staying around all that much, considering they were on the same set of maps, some of which had issues which took a decent while to be fixed, for 7 months. And this wasn't a dead game at the time, by the way. There were people who were playing this game waiting for an update, and there was nothing, no announcement to say we're waiting on ports, be patient. Because of that, Free-for-All had a lot to match up to, because to be frank, people, including myself, started to get annoyed by the wait. They tried to quell this by bringing back a bunch of crossover skins in the Gueststravaganza event, letting you burn crowns on rare skins before they vanished, but ultimately I think the frustration has remained into the new season. Free-for-All is better than Season 6, it's something new and you can play with all your friends, but the wait for the current season, and the shortcoming on Mediatonic's end to even give so much as a reason for the delays can't be ignored. This isn't good business, and it already had a bad taste in people's mouths before the season even launched. Most people were anticipating the new season to drop once the final Satellite Stars event concluded, and then there was complete and utter silence for 2 more months. This is the part where they spit in your face. Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite, bought Mediatonic, and are a major reason as to why crossplay and progression made their way into the game. However, at the launch of Free-for-All, the shop was overhauled to be more in line with that of the Fortnite one. But, as a show of good faith, you can also buy items with kudos that can still be earned for free in the game. Not only that, all your old kudos remain, and you had all your crowns converted to them as well. Because previously, you could buy cosmetics with crowns and kudos. Kudos you got from passively playing matches, and crowns you obtained by winning. As higher rarity items cost crowns, there was always some sort of incentive to keep you playing, so you'd have enough for the next skin you really wanted. And that was a good system, because anyone could earn crowns. However, if you wanted to earn them quickly and not via a squad carry, you'd simply get better at the game and hold your own in the more difficult modes to get more shards or entire crowns more frequently. Even past the end of the Fame Pass, crowns gave some sort of incentive to keep going. But to facilitate the new shop, that was removed. Crowns no longer exist and winning does not reward anything anymore. And trust me, that fame barely scraped being classed as one. Kudos are now obtained only via challenges, meaning you have a hard cap on how many you can earn per day, which really isn't much in the scheme of things. In the old system, if you wanted enough kudos for a cosmetic, give it a few matches if you truly wanted to grind, and you could get it. Not anymore. I feel it's also worth mentioning that there are no higher tier cosmetics available with kudos, and no outright outfits. Only nameplates, faceplates, the odd emote, and I think accessories are available with them, which means you will have no chance in hell of getting any more crossover skins or higher tier outfits. Unless of course you want to pay money. That's right, the game went free to play. It needed a monetization model, and that comes in the form of Showbucks, which conveniently come in the exact same quantity and pricing as V-Bucks. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but still, you cannot earn Showbucks passively, barring what is given in the Fame Pass. Assuming you'd like to purchase the pass of next season, that leaves you with 550 to work with, which isn't a standalone cosmetic on a good day. Now, this rubbed people the wrong way for a few reasons, so here's the Clip Notes version. Items that used to be obtainable for free now cost Showbucks. People think Showbucks items are overpriced. Some Showbucks items are passed to DLC, which are no longer available. Said pass to DLC was $5 for 3 costumes, and these same costumes are now going for upwards of $5 each in the store. You can't buy any good shit with Kudos, you can't work for cosmetics at all anymore. Winter celebrations sold in the store still can't be previewed despite now costing real money, and refunds are not an option despite currently being present in other Epic Games properties. There's a right way and a wrong way to handle going free to play. This was not it! I'm not the first person to mention this, but I think maintaining the old shop system of working to get items could work in a free-to-play economy. Increase the price, give people the option to buy things with Showbucks instead of crowns. Considering the game runs on a fear of missing out market, there will be plenty of people who can't be bothered or skilled enough to get the required currencies in time and still want to shill. I think it's worth a shot. I mean, it would hurt earnings a little, but it would generate goodwill, which is what the game needs right now. It incentivizes people to keep playing in the promise of more free rewards, which would that be seen as more valuable, because that in turn would generate some more long-term profits in theory. And just so we're clear, this has worked before, I'm not going insane. Dead by Daylight has a similar-ish system in which you can buy DLC items and outfits using the iridescent shards you get from leveling up while playing. And while you can argue that that's a paid game, a fair bit of revenue will be generated through the DLC purchases, hence why there's so many. If you want a free-to-play comparison, arguably one of the biggest games right now, Genshin Impact has a similar model. Playing through the game, logging in to do daily quests, and generally engaging with things reward you with that game's premium currency, Primo Gems. Not all too much, so we're clear, spending is still incentivized as a way to play. However, I'd be lying if I said this monetization model hadn't increased my own enjoyment of the game and kept me coming back for more. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say this, but I appreciate when games at least give me the option to grind for a cosmetic, rather than solely locking them behind a paywall. Fuck it, even Clash of Clans did this! Just because Fortnite can get away with a business practice does not mean Fall Guys should get the same privilege. Hell, little known fact, the Fortnite item shop was founded on people also being able to earn V-Bucks, albeit in Save the World at the very beginning of its lifespan. Whilst the ability to buy the mode and have this feature enabled was removed 2 years ago now, all players who bought the game up until that point are still graced with the ability to earn plenty of V-Bucks year-round if they so wish. And just so we're clear, that was a £35 purchase on my end, but I'm still incentivized to buy when I know I won't be able to earn enough. And I mean, not to diss on Fall Guys, because I like the game, but if £20 for a Fortnite skin can be considered a bit of a scam, then almost the same for a Fall Guys skin is the entire call centre. Seriously, prices have to be negotiated somewhere at a minimum, because there are some shops that border on extortion at points. There's a chance someone watching this video may be in a position to change the way Fall Guys is handling Showbucks as of present. It's apparent the type of model I've mentioned works. Genshin made $2 billion in its first year while utilising something similar. I'm no game designer, but I at least think it's for the best that if the team has the ability to change the system to something where you can at least put in the work to get any cosmetic, no matter how much it is, even if that may involve a little bit of saving to make sure you get the one you want, I genuinely think it won't hurt sales much, if at all. But it would severely increase goodwill around the game and make sure players kept coming back. While personally I'm still going to give the game money here and there, I did buy the Season Sushi starter pack just so we're entirely transparent. I know many people who feel cheated considering they bought the game. The starter pack was nice and all, but it just feels like some nicety to make sure everyone's on the same playing field now. Sure, you have all your cosmetics from the past 2 years of playing the game, but now you're no different than a free-to-play player, and trust me, those guys are having even worse of a time. Eventually, your kudos stash is going to dry up and you'll be stuck getting the 200-something kudos you get from challenges per day and fall victim to exactly the same type of system Epic is trying to bank on. People aren't too fond of that. And honestly, that's just gonna filter. People aren't gonna calm down because they've gone from a system where the main draw of the game was to play and be good to earn cosmetics to a game where you play for fun and shill for cosmetics. So if the decision is up to some person at Epic that cares about profits, I'll put this in a language you can understand. You might think not letting people work for cosmetics is a smart move to increase profits, but I want to propose a different type of view. When I finish the Fame Pass, what do I get? As it stands, not much. Kudos being regulated to only challenges, out of the picture, and crowns as a currency are gone. If I win, I get to self-congratulate myself, and not much all else. There is a single thing you get from a win, and that's crown rank progress. And I'll be honest, that isn't enough to keep me wanting to play the game, because crown ranks, by your own creation, are a long-term objective. In the latter ranks, there are hundreds of crowns between rewards, most costumes of which are multiple tiers apart. There is no sort of gratification from getting a win past the end of the Fame Pass that makes it a win. What exactly did I win? A token along a path I'm not going to see progress on for at least another week or two? Am I just expected to knuckle down that entire time and keep playing to get one half of a costume? Don't get me wrong, I can play the game for fun, it still is and undoubtedly more than ever, but some sort of thing to work towards, something feasible to keep me coming back in the short term, is needed. Even if I'm only coming back to try and save so I can get some free shit, simply being there increases the likelihood of me spending money. I'm sure you have the graphs, you can tell me just exactly how players correlate to spending figures. Currency crowns were one of, if not the driving thing that kept people coming back regardless of what they had and hadn't done. They were something constant you could always work for, and if you wanted more, that was incentive to get better. But now there's challenges for kudos, I guess, for that nameplate, which I'm really sure you liked saving multiple days for. You don't have to make costumes cost as low as they did before. You should make people work for them a decent bit so you still incentivize spending a little bit here and there. But you should at least even consider the option to enable crowns and kudos as a purchase option alongside showbucks. It may seemingly lose you money in the short term and all of your simulations, but it will keep people in the long term, and I firmly believe that not only will the game remain sustainable in such a matter, but will also remain financially viable for much longer too. If there is any game that should understand the memo of burning long, but not fast, it should be this one. Please Mediatonic, if you're hearing this, change the system. Anyway, that's the shop dead and buried, but what about everything else? Well, Fall Guys is no longer available to purchase on Steam, which isn't as big a sin as some make it out to be, but I mean, it's still something. Mediatonic also implemented skill-based matchmaking, and it's a little egregious.
I am so happy about this information.
No one has found the exact requirements yet, but now players are split into bands and matched with people in said band. Depending on which one you fall into, there are different rounds available, with higher level bands having more maps and variations unlocked. This also means brand new players will have an extremely low pool of maps that presumably will get old faster than if they had access to everything from the start. There's babying new players to ease them into the controls and ways the games work, and then there's turning them away with the same lack of round variety that killed the game in the first place. I mean, new players get coddled and the experienced players are stuck in sweatfests 24/7. While this is currently exclusive to solos, it doesn't make it excusable. Mediatonic are literally pushing away both groups of players and gaining no benefit from doing so. One of the major props I gave this game for going free as late as it did was that it had this hugely increased round pool that would be amazing to new and returning players alike, and they've completely shot themselves in the foot. This benefits absolutely no party here. If there's any takeaway from this video, a hypothetical employee should take, it's to gut this feature as soon as possible because it genuinely is easy as disabling a few lines of code. So to summarise, Fall Guys is back and doing insanely well thanks to their free multi-platform relaunch scheme, and I'm glad to see it finally getting the player numbers it deserves. Hell, the Steam chart nowadays doesn't even account for all the new players on console and Epic, and it's still trouncing the past year. But I think while the success is great, and deserved for all the work they've put in, the game is once again on a timer, and Mediatonic need to make sure they're on the ball to make sure it doesn't flatline again. It seems the next season is already in development and will have a much shorter wait. That's a good start, but I hope they address the issue with skill-based matchmaking and the extortionate shop system. Hell, if you finish the Fame Pass, you're going to proceed to get nothing from playing matches until the new season starts, even if you win. I like the game, and I'm sure people who work on it like it too. You guys have a chance to make something long-term here, so with all that said, don't lose it. Anyway, this is the outro. If you did enjoy, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I apologise this isn't the 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors review I promised you guys, but it was something short and I needed to get back into the swing of this, so hopefully you don't mind. If you did end up enjoying though, there's going to be a playlist here with all the other reviews we've made, and specifically the previous Fall Guys video we made should be around here-ish. Of course, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, comment, all that fun jazz, because it all helps out a bunch. I'll be seeing you next time, and yeah,